Greetings, everyone. I'm Brian LaRosa, and welcome to LaRosa's Trains. You're watching my second 10th anniversary re-upload on this YouTube channel. It's the 2012 Damascus Train Day, which was part of the annual Damascus Day celebration each July. Originally, the model train show was located in my town's public library every November, but this one took place at the Damascus Volunteer Fire Department Activity Center. In fact, I already explained the story of my visits to the show, so you can read more about it on the LaRosa's Trains website. Let's talk about the layouts shown in this video. First, we see a 3-rail O gauge layout featuring mostly MTH Premier Line trains. This layout has 5 loops. Running on the outer loop is a 12-hopper Union Pacific coal train pulled by a GE ES44AC diesel and an EMD SD90-43 Mac. On the second outer loop, a Milwaukee Road EP4 electric locomotive, also known as Little Joe, hauls a 5-car passenger train. For the uninitiated, the name Little Joe came from the fact that the 20 GE electrics were initially built in 1946 for Russia, ruled by Soviet dictator Joseph Stalin. However, due to the Cold War conflicts at that time, these were never exported to that country and were instead delivered to 2 American railroads as well as a single Brazilian railroad. A Pennsylvania 280 consolidation steam engine carries 3 Rail King 031 gauge heavyweight passenger cars on the innermost loop. The second inner loop is occupied by a Pennsy E44 electric hauling a short freight train. I think the owner of this collection told me that his personal favorite railroad is the Pennsylvania, which is why there are 3 PRR trains running on this layout, including a 442 Atlantic-type steamer with a string of longer O-scale heavyweights. This is another O gauge layout, which features modern Lionel trains. First up, we see a Lionmaster Western Maryland 4664 Challenger steam engine pulling a long freight on the inner main loop. Next to that is a flatbed train hauled by a pair of F-unit diesels in an elephant-style lash-up. In the middle of the layout are 2 additional trains, one pulled by Percy, the number 6 small engine, and another by James, the number 5 red engine. The 4 vehicles riding on James's train are from the Thomas and Friends wooden railway line, and I used to play with these toys when I was a little lad. Here's a brief look at the Lionel O gauge Thomas the Tank Engine, which I now own in my collection. This layout has a nice mix of structures and accessories, including a working Ferris wheel, a switch tower, a Sinclair gas station, and a firehouse. Both the fire station and the Sinclair station are operating accessories made by MTH. Other accessories include a house under construction, a passenger station with platform, and the Lionel animated track crew. The O Gauge Western Maryland Challenger is part of Lionel's Line-Master series, which offers primarily articulated steam locomotives as well as some big diesels in a semi-scale size along with command control. It's sort of Lionel's version of MTH's Rail King Imperial line. While this model resembles a Union Pacific Challenger and does not have the prototypical WM-style details, it can negotiate curves as tight as 031, making it itself friendly to small O gauge layouts. This is a multi-gauge layout combining Lionel pre-war standard gauge, O gauge, and American Flyer S gauge. There are 4 interactive accessories for visitors to play with by simply pushing a button. On the right side of this layout, there's a pre-war style gate man, and an operating crossing gate. If you look carefully, you can see a load of Tootsie Rolls on a green standard gauge gondola. In the center of the layout is the Lionel number 115 station. Located on the far left side are the other 2 operating accessories, including a railroad crossing signal, and a semaphore. As we move back to the right, you will briefly notice a floor layout with a train that can only be moved by hand rather than electricity. If you pause this video at that point, you'll have more time looking at it. This Lionel post-war O gauge layout is definitely worth talking about because it contains a lot of fun, especially with operating accessories. A Union Pacific passenger train, led by a pair of Alco FA diesels, is referred to as the anniversary set, since Lionel originally made it back in 1950 to celebrate its 50th year. Here's the number 145 Gateman, the post-war version of the one you've seen on the previous layout. Then we go to the number 497 coaling station, where the coal is deposited into the loading hopper and dumped into a dump car. There's another coal loader, number 397, nearby. It uses a vibrator to force the coal into the back, where an escalator picks it up and drops it into the car. Here's a look at the always popular operating milk car, where a worker moves the milk cans onto the platform.
Okay, now the merchandise car.
The merchandise car tosses the boxes outside, making itself a really fun Lionel piece. Next up is the 164 log loader. The logs are lifted by a chain mechanism and deposited into the loader. Then the logs are loaded onto the car. These Lionel accessories, like this one, totally remind me of the ones from TM Books and Videos' I Love Toy Train series. They're really awesome and also very funny, because there have been a lot of bloopers when things didn't work well with them. The TM videos made a significant part of my childhood, and that was how I first heard about the O Gauge accessories. The Lionel 362 barrel loader is another cool accessory. Like the 397 coal loader, it also has a vibrator to convey the barrels up a ramp and load them onto a waiting car. I remember seeing this accessory from I Love Toy Trains, where the barrels failed to go up and fall off the loader. This gondola contains its own vibrator to move the barrels from one end to the other and eventually unload them. This is the Newman Circus train that was built by Richard Newman. It's an imitation circus wagon with an HO scale layout and a G-gauge loop. There's an animated puppet dressed in an engineer outfit. Pulling the wagon is a carousel horse with a clown riding on. Underneath the wagon is a disco ball producing colorful lights. And of course, the circus music accompanies the theme of the train layout. There are two main loops of HO track, each occupied by one train. At one end of the layout, there's an elaborately detailed carnival with lots of action from amusement rides, such as the Ferris wheel, the carousel, and the swing set. The The G gauge train does not move in this video, for those of you who may be curious. Inside the circus tent, lots of performers and animals are dancing around the ring. Next to the tent is an area where the circus trains are parked. A Western Maryland diesel is painted in red and white, creating an unofficial nickname, the Circus scheme. It was regularly used by that railroad for only a few years until the chassis system merger. The Northern Virginia NTRAK layout has been on display for many years, since 1991, and has visited Damascus for quite a long time. A CSX train is headed by 2 EMD SD70 ACEs and 1 SD80 MAC. A pair of Phase 4 painted Genesis diesels pulls an Amtrak Superliner train. Notice the NMRA lettering on the last car. It stands for National Model Railroad Association, as many of you know. There's a frosty mountain scene where the trees are sprinkled with snow. A freight train sits by a railroad crossing for some reason, probably due to a car wreck scene. There's an industrial area with lots of trucks and trailers all over the place. I like the scratch-built N-scale model of a CSX GP40 diesel with its open engine panels, as if the locomotive is being serviced. We don't see that often on any other layout. Here's a brief look at a chassis system coal train idling on one track. On the right of the mainline tracks is a turntable near a locomotive service facility. Have a closer look at the Amtrak Phase 4 scheme worn by the Genesis units. This is a smaller N-scale layout. There's probably not much to talk about, but I'll mention a few highlights. A CSX GP38 diesel pulls a short string of tank cars. There's a trio of Army tanks sitting on a train. Coming out of the tunnel and under the trestle bridge is a Baltimore and Ohio F unit AB set carrying a single passenger car. There's a nicely built small town area in front of a detailed mountain. This green intermodal type crane is used for lifting tanks and other military equipment. Speaking of which, there's a military base where the tanks are parked. The last layout I filmed at the 2012 Damascus Train Day event is the Lego train display. It was built on a white tabletop to simulate the winter snow, creating a Christmas-themed wonderland. We see a passenger station with a small handcar in front. There's a police station with a mobile police unit truck. This cool-looking train is called the Lego Railway Express, consisting of a four-wheeled control car, two passenger cars, and a rear power car. If you look carefully inside the first passenger car, there's a cafe of some sort. And the second is a regular coach or lounge car. The rear power car contains an octane fuel tank or something. A Lego holiday train set passes by a burning house with a fire engine and helicopter. Every Christmas train layout must have a tree like this one, surrounded by some presents and toys. Well, we're reaching the end of the video. This has been the 10th anniversary edition of the 2012 Damascus Train Day event. I hope you have enjoyed seeing all the model train displays, as well as listening to my commentary. So that's all for now. Thanks for watching. I'm Brian LaRosa, and happy holidays.